Our first step in assembling the shoe bench is going to be to clamp up the two end assemblies for the base, consisting of the legs and the short top and bottom rail. After putting these roughly in place, we're going to go ahead and put glue in all the mortises that are going to hold our domino loose tenons. Now this is a long, tedious process, and in order to speed it up, we're going to speed up right now. I use a special silicone glue brush I got from Rockler to spread the glue evenly, both in the mortises and on the surface of the tenons. And I use a small mallet to drive them home. And we do the same thing on the short rails, and we're going to put two of them in place first, of course being careful to align them correctly. And now we're going to go ahead and slide in our raised panel that is captured in grooves in the legs and short rails. And we'll finish it off by applying glue to the final mortises and tenons, and popping the other leg in place. Once all the parts are together and aligned, I use a pair of heavy-duty bar clamps to clamp this sub-assembly up. But before letting it dry, I'm going to use a straight edge to assure that the inside faces of the two legs are parallel and flat, as this will affect the alignment of the long rails later on. Now we're ready to glue together the drawer support and the bulkheads. Notice I've already cut out the notches in the bulkheads that are going to hold the long rails. And here I'm going to go ahead and spread glue again in all the mortises and apply it to all the loose domino tenons. And once that's done, we're going to go ahead and slip them in place, making sure that the parts are aligned correctly and the right facing surface is up on the drawer support, and use a soft face mallet here to knock that in place before repeating the process with the loose tenons and mortises in the other bulkhead. I've already applied glue in these. Now we're just going to slide it in place and set it upright, and apply our cabinet clamps to clamp the whole assembly together. I'm careful to center these clamps on the drawer support so it will keep the two bulkheads parallel to one another, and you can check for this, of course, with a ruler after clamping up. Now we're moving on to gluing the bulkhead subassembly to the base. And notice here I've already glued on the front rail. And I'm just applying my glue as always. And now we're going to do a little speed up here to shorten up the video time for watching this process. And these mortises, incidentally, that are in the solid wood bottom of the shoe bench are plowed shallower than the other mortises. And now that that's ready to go, set the whole thing in place, give it a little bit of a pounding, and then I'm going to check my recess in the front and back and make sure it's even, and then apply my cabinet clamps. For clamping at the front, I need to add a spacer block because of the overhang of the front rail. And once all four clamps are in place, you can go ahead and set this assembly aside to dry. Next, we'll attach the wood strips that guide our drawer. I'm going to use a thin piece of cardboard as a shim to provide a little bit of clearance between the drawer and the guide. I'm going to position the guide with its front edge flush with the front edge of the bulkhead and clamp it in place temporarily. Now I can remove the drawer and make sure it slides smoothly. And now I'm going to use a right angle drill to drill a series of pilot holes. in the strip. And notice the rear holes in the strips are slotted slightly to allow wood movement between the bulkhead and the guide strip. And now I'm using some washer head screws, number 8s, to hold the guide strip in place. And I repeat that, of course, on the other side of the bulkhead. Now I'm going to insert a couple of metal dowel centers into the 3/8 inch holes that are drilled in the notches in the bulkheads. And here's our top front rail, and you see I've marked it here with the outer edges of the two bulkheads. I'm going to carefully line these up so our rail will be properly centered. And now with a mallet, I'm going to go ahead and give a little sharp rap on each side so that the dowel center's points will leave some dimples, and I'm going to use these to center a dowel point drill bit to drill holes for dowels that go into the part of the way into the railing. Of course, we don't see them on the front, and attach them to the bulkheads. Now in the rear, I don't glue these in place just in case there's any wood movement at the back of the case. Won't have any problems. But of course the front needs to be clamped, and so I'm going to use a couple of clamps to draw those joints nice and tight. I'm going to let this dry before proceeding with the rest of the assembly of the base. Before I do any more gluing and clamping, I'm going to insert a couple of number 20 plate joinery biscuits into slots that I made earlier. And also I'm going to go ahead and put the rear rail in place. It slides onto a lip on the back of the bottom with no glue. And now I'm ready to go ahead and take my two sub-assembled end pieces and attach them to the bottom and to the top rails using the same loose domino tenons I've been using. Give those a few taps to get them in place. And now I'm going to repeat the whole process on the other end. Here, speed it up. You know, it's amazing how fast you can work when you have motivation. Yeah, I try to use just the right amount of glue so I get a little bit of squeeze out, but not too much, so it's not getting glue all over everything. And the last domino goes in place, and I'm ready to pop on, no, a little more glue. Spread that around in the mortises, and now I'm ready to pop that in place. A little persuasion from my mallet, and once that's good and everything's all lined up, here come the big clamps. These are some really nice Bessie bar clamps that I use for these sorts of assemblies. And of course we want to get one in at each corner to take care of the joints on the long rails. Now is the perfect time to apply the finish before the top goes on, since you can get to every square inch of the base, and of course I want to finish every surface inside and out. Here I'm using Watco Danish oil. It has a little bit of color in it, makes the oak look quite a bit richer. Now that it's all finished, I'm going to go ahead and set my bench's seat upside down on some towels on my workbench, and then the base goes on top of that, of course, upside down. And before doing anything else, I'm going to use a ruler to check all my overhangs and make sure that they're all even front and back and on the sides. And now I'm going to go ahead and insert the top buttons, table buttons some people call them, into the slots that were created earlier in the top edges of the bulkheads and in the top rails. And these allow wood movement of the solid wood seat, and they're screwed in place with some washer head screws. Finally, I'm going to go ahead and slide the bench's 1/4 inch back into slots that were routed into the inside edges of the rear legs. A little persuasion here before I get that back to drop. I scooch it down into place, and at the bottom of the rear rail, I'm going to use a piece of molding that has a lip in it that's designed to fit and capture the back. Going to make sure that it's nice and secure, and I'm going to use my pneumatic pin gun to hold that in place. You can use brads or even small screws if you wish instead. And finally, I drive some pins through the back into the top rail, and our shoe bench is basically complete.